One of the most radical and profound intuitions of Buddhism is the assertion that the sensory world is transient, conditioned, and unstable. This statement is neither pessimistic nor an escape from reality, but a sober insight into the nature of experience. Buddhism does not begin with the question, how to make the world better, but with a much more fundamental question, what do we truly experience and how does suffering arise? In everyday life, people instinctively try to fix the world, to ensure security, lasting happiness, stable relationships, and a solid identity. But Buddhism claims that this very strategy is the source of suffering. Buddhist analysis begins with the concept of dukkha, often translated as suffering, but in a broader sense it refers to dissatisfaction, fragility, and insecurity. Dukkha does not only concern pain and misfortune, but also the fact that even the most pleasant experiences are impermanent. Happiness suffers because it does not last. Love suffers because it is vulnerable. Identity suffers because it is unstable. This raises the key question. Does suffering arise from the world or from our relationship to it? Buddhism answers that suffering does not originate from phenomena themselves, but from attachment to them, from the desire for them to be permanent, secure, and defining of us. Buddhist philosophy summarizes the insight into the nature of reality through three fundamental characteristics: anicca, impermanence; dukkha, unsatisfactoriness; and anatta, non-self. Everything that arises is subject to change. This applies not only to material things but also to thoughts, feelings, and states of mind. The problem is not change itself, but our tendency to resist it. The second aspect, dukkha, indicates that nothing conditioned can provide lasting fulfillment. The sensory world entices us with promises of completeness, yet every fulfillment is temporary. The third characteristic, anatta, is perhaps the most challenging. There is no permanent, independent self behind experience. What we call I is a dynamic process composed of bodily sensations, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. Buddhism does not claim that the world does not exist, but that the world we experience is always mediated through our senses and mind. We do not experience reality as it is, but as a flow of experiences. Here appears the concept of avijja, ignorance or misperception. Ignorance does not mean a lack of information, but a wrong interpretation of experience. Believing that the impermanent is permanent, that the conditioned can provide absolute security. From this perspective, the attempt to fix the world becomes a misdirected effort. The world is by nature changing and conditioned. Every attempt to freeze, control, or perfect it leads to disappointment. Suffering arises from tanha, thirst, desire, attachment. It is not the problem that we feel joy, sadness, or longing, but that we make them the foundation for identity and security. The Buddhist path is not a moral or intellectual doctrine, but a practice of direct seeing. Through meditation, especially vipassana, the practitioner learns to observe thoughts, feelings, and sensations without identifying with them. Over time, it becomes clear that nothing is stable, nothing can be possessed, and there is no self. This insight does not lead to nihilism but to liberation. When we stop seeking permanence in the impermanent, our relationship to the world becomes lighter, more open, and more sensitive. Nirvana is often misunderstood as an escape from the world, or as an eternal state of bliss. In Buddhism, it is the cessation of ignorance and attachment. The world does not disappear, but the way we experience it changes. Experience continues without the illusion that it must provide absolute security. Different Buddhist schools emphasize this insight in various ways. Theravada focuses on individual insight and direct observation. Mahayana develops the idea of emptiness and compassion, emphasizing that liberation is inseparable from the well-being of others. Zen goes even further, insisting on direct experience without conceptual mediation. The ultimate message of Buddhism is profoundly counterintuitive. Suffering is not solved by a perfect world, but by clear seeing. When we stop trying to fix the world and begin to understand the nature of experience, space opens for freedom. Not freedom from the world, but freedom in the world, as it is. Transient, conditioned, and for that very reason deeply alive. If you liked the video, please subscribe and like.